I'm 62 years old, and for 30 of those years, I carried a truth I couldn't say out loud. Back in 1994, my son vanished in the Gifford Pinchot Forest, and for decades, I thought I'd been hunting whatever took him. But I was wrong. The thing I kept seeing in those woods, the Bigfoot wearing my boy's old jacket, had been watching me, guiding me, showing me pieces of a truth I never understood. I've held this inside for most of my life, but I can't keep it buried anymore. My name is Robert Henley. Most people call me Rob. I'm 62. I work maintenance at a storage facility in Packwood, Washington. Before that, I was a logging foreman. Had a wife, had a son, had a normal life. Then my son disappeared, and everything fell apart. This is what happened. July 15th, 1994, Saturday. Hot day. We were camping in the Gifford Pinchot, me and my wife Linda and our son Michael. He was 8 years old, small kid, skinny, dark hair like his mother. Always moving, never stopped asking questions. We'd been going to the same spot for years, about 6 miles off the main road, near a creek. Good fishing. Quiet. That morning, Michael fished with me. He was terrible at it. Too impatient. But he tried. He was wearing his favorite jacket, blue windbreaker with yellow stripes. NASA patch on the chest. I'd bought it at a thrift store. He'd worn it so much the cuffs were fraying. After lunch, Linda went in the tent to read. Michael was playing in the dirt with his toy cars, making roads, building ramps. I realized we needed firewood. I'm getting firewood, I told Linda. Okay. Michael, stay where your mom can see you. Okay, Dad. I grabbed the hatchet, walked into the woods, maybe 100 yards. I was gone 15 minutes. When I came back, Linda was still reading. Where's Michael? She looked up. What? Where's Michael? His toy cars were still there. The roads he'd made. Everything. But no Michael. We searched, called his name, checked the creek, checked everywhere. Nothing. Michael! Linda was yelling now. Michael, this isn't funny! We searched for another 30 minutes, calling his name, looking everywhere. Then I heard something from deeper in the forest. Not close, maybe a quarter mile away. A sound. Low. Not a bear. Not an elk. Something else. Did you hear that? I asked Linda. She was calling Michael's name. Didn't answer. I stood there listening. But the sound didn't come again. I told Linda to stay at the campsite. In case Michael came back, I hiked to my truck, drove until I found cell service, called 911. My son is missing, I said. He's 8 years old. We're camping in the Gifford Pinchot. The woman was calm, asked me questions. How long had he been missing? What was he wearing? He's wearing a blue jacket, I said. Blue with yellow stripes, and a NASA patch on the chest. Help is coming, she said. Get back to your campsite and stay there. I drove back. Linda was standing in the middle of the clearing. Just standing there, looking at the trees. They're coming, I said. She didn't look at me. Search and rescue arrived within an hour. By nightfall, there were 50 people combing the forest. Volunteers, rangers, Search teams with dogs. They brought spotlights, set up a command post. The dogs couldn't pick up a scent. I watched the handler walk them around over and over. The dogs would sniff, whine, but they wouldn't track. "It's like he just vanished," the handler said. By Sunday morning, there were 200 people searching. Helicopters, FBI agents, news vans. They searched in a grid pattern, moving out from the campsite, calling Michael's name through megaphones. I joined the search parties. Couldn't just sit there. Linda stayed at the campsite, in case Michael came back. On the third day, someone found a piece of blue fabric on a branch, about a mile from our campsite. My heart stopped when they showed it to me, but it wasn't Michael's jacket. Wrong shade, wrong material. On the fifth day, they brought in cadaver dogs. That's when I knew they weren't looking for Michael anymore. They were looking for a body. Linda and I didn't talk. We'd sit at the campsite while search teams came and went. She wouldn't look at me. The FBI interviewed me 6 times. They always look at the parents first. The lead agent was a woman. Short, gray hair, hard eyes. "Walk me through it again," she'd say. "What time did you leave the campsite?" "Around 3:45. "And your wife was in the tent?" "Yes." "Reading?" "Yes." "And Michael was playing?" "Yes." "And you told him to stay where his mother could see him?" "Yes." "But your wife was in the tent, so she couldn't see him." "She was right there." "But she couldn't see him if she was in the tent reading." They searched our house, looked at our finances, talked to our neighbors, Michael's teachers. Found nothing. Just 2 parents who'd taken their kid camping and somehow lost him. The search went on for 3 weeks. Every day, fewer people showed up. In early August, they called it off. The search coordinator was a man named Stevens. "Mr. Henley, Mrs. Henley, we've searched everything within a 10-mile radius. We've used dogs, helicopters, thermal imaging. So keep searching," I said. "The chances of finding Michael alive at this point are essentially 0. "So you're giving up?" "The case stays open. If any new evidence comes to light, we'll pursue it. But the active search has to end." Linda made a sound. Not crying. Something else. We packed up the campsite that day, drove home in silence. 2 weeks later, we held a memorial service. We buried an empty casket in the cemetery in Packwood. Linda stood on one side of the grave. I stood on the other. We didn't look at each other. After everyone left, I stayed. Stared at that casket, knowing it was empty. Knowing my son was still out there somewhere. The marriage lasted 6 months after that. We tried. At first, we'd sit in the living room at night, TV on, but neither of us watching. But the silence was worse than fighting. One night in November, Linda finally spoke. "You promised you'd watch him." We were sitting in the dark. "You were right there," I said. "But you walked away. You said you'd be right back, and you walked away. You were 30 feet from him. But you were supposed to be watching him, Rob. You promised me." Her voice broke. "I know," I said. She started sleeping in the guest room after that. We'd pass each other in the hallway, like strangers. In December, she told me she was leaving. "I can't do this anymore," she said. "I can't look at you without seeing him. without seeing that day. Linda, I need to go. I need to try to have a life that isn't just this. Her sister came to help her pack. I sat in the kitchen while they carried boxes out. Linda stopped in the doorway before she left. "If you ever find him," she said, "call me." "I will." She looked at me for a long time. "I don't blame you anymore. I'm trying not to, but I can't stay here." Then she left. We finalized the divorce early the next year, met in a lawyer's office, signed papers, didn't say a word to each other. She moved to Portland, got an apartment, got a job. I stayed in Packwood. I couldn't leave. What if Michael came back and I wasn't there? After the divorce, I moved into a small apartment. I took a job doing maintenance at a storage facility. Guy who owned it was named Dale. "You got experience with repairs?" he asked. "I was a logging foreman for 12 years. I can fix most things." "You reliable?" "Yes." He hired me on the spot. I spent every other moment in the woods. I'd drive up to the Gifford Pin Show every weekend. Sometimes during the week, too. I had a system. Mark out grids on a map. Search each grid. Move to the next one. I'd walk for hours, looking at the ground, looking for anything. People in town started avoiding me. I'd see them in the grocery store. They'd look away. I was that guy. The guy whose kid disappeared. The guy who couldn't let it go. Dale's wife told him I needed help. "Rob," Dale said one day, "Mary thinks you should talk to someone. A therapist." "I don't need a therapist. You're taking off work 3 days a week. You look like hell." "I'm fine." I wasn't fine. I started drinking at night. Just a couple beers to help me sleep. Then 3 beers. Then 4. I'd sit in my apartment, stare at the walls, drink until I couldn't think anymore. Some nights I'd pull out Michael's things, his drawings, his report cards, a photo of him on his 8th birthday. He was wearing that blue jacket in the picture, grinning, missing his 2 front teeth. I'd stare at that photo until I couldn't see it anymore. Then I'd drink more. One morning I woke up on the floor, empty beer cans everywhere, head pounding. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. I looked like a ghost. I poured every beer in my fridge down the sink, showed up at work on time. Dale looked surprised. "You okay?" he asked. "No," I said, "but I'm trying to be." I worked. I searched. I didn't want to find him anymore. I needed to. It was the only thing keeping me alive. After about 6 months, I started noticing things. Tracks. Not bear tracks, not elk. Something else. First time was early 1995. Cold. Snow on the ground. I was walking near the creek when I saw them. Clear prints in mud. Big. Way too big for a person. 5 toes. A clear arch. Deep impressions. Whatever made them was heavy. And whatever made them walked on 2 feet. I took pictures. Made a plaster cast. Brought the cast home. Set it on my kitchen table. Stared at it every night. I told myself I was losing it. That grief was making me see things that weren't there. But I kept finding them. Always in the same area. Always the same pattern. I went to the library. Started reading about Bigfoot. Felt ridiculous even looking at those books. But what else explained tracks like that? Most of what I read was garbage. Blurry photos. Obviously fake. But some of it was different. Forest Service workers reporting strange sounds, hunters finding tracks, rangers who'd seen things, people who had no reason to lie. And a lot of reports came from the Pacific Northwest, the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, right where Michael had disappeared. Maybe I was going crazy. Maybe grief had broken something in my head. But the tracks were real. I had the casts. I had the photos. Something lived in those woods. Something big. Something that walked on 2 feet. 2 years after Michael disappeared, everything changed. Summer of 1996. I was doing one of my searches. There was this flat rock near the creek. Big. I'd sat on it before. Late afternoon. Hot. I was tired. That's when I saw it. Something sitting on top of the rock. At first, I thought it was just a stone. But as I got closer, I realized it was a compass. Small. Brass. I stopped walking. My heart started pounding. I knew that compass. I picked it up, turned it over. This was Michael's compass. I'd given it to him for his 7th birthday. He'd loved it, carried it everywhere. But here's the thing. I'd been to that rock dozens of times. The compass hadn't been there before. Someone had put it there, recently. No rust, no weather damage, like someone had been handling it, keeping it safe. I looked around, but I felt watched. I checked for tracks, found some about 20 feet away. Big prints, 5 toes, the same tracks I'd been finding. Someone had Michael's compass, had kept it for 2 years, had just now left it where I would find it. Why? The next morning I drove back, brought food this time, beef jerky, apples, left it on the rock. 2 days later, I went back. The food was gone, and there was something else on the rock, a feather, large, brown and white. I picked it up, looked around. Still that same feeling of being watched. "Thank you," I said out loud, "for the compass, for keeping it safe." No response, just wind in the trees, but I knew something was listening. 4 months later, I found something else. Fall, leaves changing. I was walking a trail I'd walked 100 times, about a mile from where I'd found the compass. That's when I saw it. Hanging from a tree branch at eye level was Michael's ID bracelet. Metal, tarnished, but unmistakable. I'd bought him that bracelet when he was 6, had his name engraved on it. He'd been wearing it the day he disappeared, and now it was hanging from a tree branch, at eye level, placed where I couldn't miss it. My hands were shaking when I untied it. I looked around, checked for tracks, found them. Same pattern. But this time, there was something else. Another set of prints. Smaller, leading away in a different direction. Then stopping. Then nothing. Like something had been watching. Then decided to leave. I put the bracelet in my pocket, left food on a nearby stump. "Thank you," I said, "for keeping these, for giving them back." Someone was returning Michael's belongings to me, piece by piece. But why spread it out? And why had there been 2 sets of tracks? Both spots deeper into the forest than our old campsite. Like someone was leading me somewhere, or testing me, making sure I'd keep coming back. Over the next year, I found 3 more items. One of Michael's toy cars, the red Ferrari, his favorite, sitting on a stump. But when I got close, I heard something. Movement in the trees behind me. Close. I turned around fast. Nothing. Just shadows. But I felt it there. Watching. A toy space shuttle. I'd given it to him for Christmas. He'd carried it everywhere. Found it on a rock near the creek. This time the food I'd left the week before was still there. Untouched. That scared me more than anything. Michael's watch. The digital one with the blue band. Sitting on top of a cairn. A pile of stones. Someone had built it. The watch was still running. Battery somehow still good. The time was frozen at 4:23, close to when Michael had disappeared. Each time I found tracks nearby. Same pattern. Each time I left food. Sometimes there were things left in return. Feathers. Pine cones arranged in patterns. River stones. Someone was trying to communicate, but the pattern was changing. Getting stranger, more deliberate. I started marking the locations on a map, drew lines between them. They all pointed in the same direction, deeper into the mountains. Too far for an 8-year-old to have walked, but maybe not too far for something else to have carried him. I spent months following that pattern. Rough terrain, steep, dense forest. Almost 4 years after Michael disappeared, I found the place. Early spring. Cold. Snow still on the ground. I came to a clearing. Small. Surrounded by cedars. In the middle was something that made me stop. A structure. Made from branches. Not random. Arranged deliberately. Woven together. In the center was a flat stone, and on that stone were things I recognized. Michael's notebook. Weathered. Pages wrapped in bark. A toy dinosaur. And his jacket. The blue windbreaker with yellow stripes. The NASA patch on the chest, folded carefully, placed in the center. I fell to my knees. My chest felt crushed. These were Michael's things. Everything he'd had with him. Everything except the few items left for me to find. Someone had collected them, protected them. That's when I heard it. A sound behind me. Heavy breathing. I turned around. Standing at the edge of the clearing was something massive, 8 feet tall, maybe more, covered in dark brown fur, broad shoulders, long arms, a Bigfoot. We looked at each other. I was on my knees. It was standing. Then it pointed at the things on the stone. Then at me. Then it placed one hand on its chest and made a sound. Soft. Low. Something that sounded almost like an apology. Then it turned and walked away. Not fast. Just walking. Like it wanted me to see it go. I sat there until the sun started going down. A Bigfoot had been keeping Michael's things, had been protecting them, had been leaving them for me to find, leading me here. But why? What was it trying to tell me? For the first time in 4 years, I wasn't searching alone anymore. I took Michael's things home that day, but I also left something behind. Food. Beef jerky, a candy bar, water. 2 weeks later, I went back. The food was gone, and there were 3 river rocks on the stone. smooth, arranged in a pile. It had taken my food, left something in return. This wasn't just about Michael. This was communication. It was saying, I know what happened. When you're ready, I'll show you. But first, you have to trust me. For the next few years, I made that journey regularly. I'd leave food, find things left in return. Sometimes I'd hear it. Movement in the trees, that same heavy breathing. Then one day, I heard something that made me freeze. I was leaving food, late afternoon. I placed the food on the stone, stepped back. That's when I heard it. A sound. Low, coming from the trees. The same sound I'd heard the day Michael disappeared. I turned around slowly. Movement, maybe 50 yards away. Something big. The creature. I remember that sound, I said out loud. My voice shook. From that day, you were there. You were there when he disappeared. The creature made the sound again. Softer this time. Not threatening. Confirming. Then silence. It had been there the day Michael vanished. Had been close enough to hear, to watch. A couple years later, everything changed. Early morning. Fog rolling through. I heard something behind me. Turned around. The creature was standing there. 30 feet away, closer than it had ever been. We looked at each other. Then it raised one hand. Slowly, opened its palm, and made a sound. Soft. I raised my hand, too. Thank you, I said, for keeping his things safe, for trusting me. The creature nodded. Then I saw something that made my breath catch. It turned slightly, and I saw it was wearing something. Michael's jacket, draped over its shoulders. It had given me back almost everything, but kept the jacket. The creature didn't look triumphant. It looked burdened, like it was carrying something heavy. Before I could say anything, the creature turned and walked away. But that image stayed with me. The creature wearing Michael's jacket like penance. More years passed. I kept leaving food. It kept taking it. We saw each other a few times, always from a distance, always brief. But there was a relationship there now. I saw it clearly once in daylight. It was old, silver-gray fur spreading down its back, lines in its face, scars on its hands. This thing had lived a long life. I heard it calling once. Long vocalizations. They sounded sad, mournful. Then I found something that changed everything. I was searching an area I'd covered before, but this time I noticed something I'd missed. A rock fall. Behind it, partially hidden, was an opening. A cave. The entrance was small. I had to crouch to get in. Once inside, the cave opened up. Dry. And someone had been living there. A bed made of moss. A fire pit. And along the wall were objects. Human objects. A broken compass. A pocket knife. A hairbrush. A watch. A keychain with a photo. I recognized the keychain. A hiker who'd gone missing a few years back. They'd searched for weeks, found nothing. The creature had been collecting them, items from people who died in the forest, keeping them, honoring them. This is what it did, what its kind did. They found the lost ones. They buried them with respect. They remembered them. They honored the dead the way humans should, but don't. That's why it kept Michael's things. But Michael's things weren't in that cave. It had given them back to me. So where was Michael? It hadn't been hiding from me all these years. It had been preparing me. By 2020, I was getting old. My body was breaking down. Knees shot. Back always hurting. I didn't know how much longer I could keep hiking, and I think the creature knew that too, because things started changing. I started seeing it more often, closer. It was leaving things near my truck. Berries, stones. I found tracks right outside our old campsite, right where Michael had been playing. Fresh tracks. The creature was coming closer than it ever had. Something was about to happen. Last October, I set up a motion sensor camera along a trail. One morning before dawn, the camera clicked. I was hiding nearby. When I heard it, my heart started pounding. I raised my binoculars. That's when I saw it. The creature. Walking down the trail. Not hiding. And it was wearing Michael's jacket. The blue one with yellow stripes. The NASA patch barely visible after 30 years. The jacket it had kept. The one thing it never gave back. It stopped. Looked right at me. Then it nodded. That same slow nod. But this time it meant something different. Follow me. It's time. Then it walked into the forest. I packed supplies that day. Left that afternoon. The creature's trail was easy to follow. Clear prints. It wasn't hiding. It was leading me. By dark, I was exhausted. Set up camp. At dawn, I kept following. The trail led up a steep slope. Hard climbing. By mid-morning, I reached the top. Started down. That's when I came to a creek. Wide. Fast water. The tracks went straight to the edge, then disappeared. It was testing me. I wasn't giving up. I took off my boots, waded into the creek. The water was freezing. Came up to my waist. The current was strong. My feet went numb. By the time I made it across, I couldn't feel my legs. I stood on the far bank, shivering. Put my boots back on. Searched downstream. Finally found a print in mud. The trail continued. By afternoon, I was in a narrow valley. Dense forest. It was quiet. Really quiet. No birds. No insects. That's when I saw it. The creature. Standing in the middle of the trail, waiting, still wearing the jacket. We looked at each other. Then it turned and started walking. I followed. The creature led me through thick forest, under low branches, over fallen logs. Finally, we came to a clearing, and I saw them. Cairns, stone piles, dozens of them, maybe more, arranged in rows, each one 3 feet high. A burial ground. My legs almost gave out. I grabbed a tree. This was where the creature brought them. The people who died in the forest. The hikers. The climbers. The hunters. Everyone who died out here alone. They were all here. Buried with respect. Marked with stones. I walked slowly into the clearing, looking at the cairns. Some were old. Stones weathered and covered in moss. Others were newer. On some, there were objects. A watch, a keychain, a compass, the same kinds of things I'd seen in the cave. The creature had been doing this for decades, finding people who died, bringing them here, burying them, honoring them. The creature moved through the rows. I followed. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. It stopped at one cairn, newer than some, lighter stones. It stood there, one hand on top of the stones, then looked at me. I knew. I walked up to the cairn. My legs were shaking. On top was Michael's compass. Placed carefully in the center, his ID bracelet laid across the stones, his notebook resting against the side. My son was buried here. I dropped to my knees. 30 years. 30 years of searching, and he'd been here the whole time. I couldn't breathe. Then I was crying, really crying, sobbing. 30 years of grief, all of it coming out. The creature made a soft sound, low, mournful. Then it sat down slowly beside the cairn. It reached into a pouch at its side, pulled out Michael's notebook, opened it carefully. The pages were brittle. Turned to the last page. There was a drawing, Michael's drawing. A tree, a small stick figure at the bottom, and a bigger figure beside it. Much bigger, drawn with brown crayon. Long arms, covered in lines. The creature. My son had met this thing before he died, had sat with it, had drawn it. But there was something else. Michael had drawn something on the ground between them. More stick figures, lying down, 5 of them, different sizes. And next to the creature's figure, Michael had drawn lines coming from its eyes. Tears. The creature was crying in the drawing. "What happened?" I asked. My voice came out rough. "What happened to him?" The creature looked at me. Then it pointed at the drawing, at the stick figures on the ground, made a gesture like something falling, collapsing, then pointed at Michael's stick figure, standing, pointed at itself, then made another gesture. 2 figures together. I stared at the drawing, at those 5 stick figures lying down, at the tears Michael had drawn. "Your family," I said slowly. "Those are your family. They died." The creature made a sound, soft. "And Michael found you, or you found him." Another sound. Then the creature did something else. It pointed at Michael's stick figure again, standing next to the creature. Then it made a gesture, hand to its own chest, then moving that hand to where Michael's figure was, like a heartbeat. Then the hand stopped, dropped. "His heart," I said. My voice broke. "Something happened to his heart." The creature nodded. Then it did something that made my breath catch. It placed both hands on its own chest, pressed down, pumped, over and over, compressions. "You tried to save him," I whispered. The creature's hands kept pumping, demonstrating. Then the hands stopped, trembled, pulled back. It had tried and failed. The creature made a sound, something between a sob and a sigh. Then it pointed at the 5 stick figures again. Its family. Pointed at itself. Made a gesture. Hands empty. Helpless. I understood. It had lost its family, watched them die, been unable to save them, and then years later, it had found my son, alone in the forest, having some kind of medical emergency. Michael had been alive when it found him, alive long enough to sit together, to draw this picture, to show the creature it wasn't afraid, that it understood the creature had lost someone too. Michael had seen this grieving thing in the forest, had tried to comfort it, had drawn them together, had drawn the creature's lost family, had drawn the creature crying. And then Michael had collapsed, and the creature had tried everything it knew, had tried to keep his heart beating, had tried to save him the way it couldn't save its own family. But its hands were too big, too strong. It didn't know human medicine. Michael had died in its arms, and for 30 years, the creature had been carrying that failure, had kept Michael's things, had worn his jacket, had led me here. All of it an apology, a memorial, a 30-year vigil of grief and guilt. You stayed with him, I said. The creature nodded. He wasn't alone. Another nod. And you tried to save him. The creature's shoulders shook. I looked at this thing, this creature that had spent 3 decades watching over my son's grave. That had tried to save a human child, even though humans had probably killed its entire family. That had chosen compassion over hatred. That had protected Michael's memory, had guided me through my grief, had waited until I was strong enough to hear the truth. It wasn't your fault, I said. You didn't fail him. The creature looked at me, those old eyes full of pain. I reached out my hand. Thank you for being there, for trying, for not leaving him alone. The creature stared at my hand, then slowly reached out its own. We touched palms, 2 fathers, both carrying guilt they shouldn't have carried. Both finally letting it go. The creature made a soft sound. Then it stood, slowly. It reached up, took off Michael's jacket, the jacket it had worn for 30 years, held it for a long moment, then draped it over the cairn, over Michael's grave, arranged it carefully, made sure the NASA patch was visible. Then it picked up the pouch, set it beside the jacket, giving me permission to take them, to bring them home if I wanted. The creature placed one hand on its chest, then pointed at the cairn, then at me. I protected him. For you. For us both. I know, I said. Thank you. The creature nodded one final time, then turned and walked away into the forest. Watched until I couldn't see it anymore. That was a year ago. Michael died July 15th, 1994. He was 8 years old. He wandered into the forest, maybe following that sound I'd heard. Maybe just exploring. He found a creature mourning its own dead family. And my son sat down with that grieving thing and tried to comfort it. Drew them together. Drew the creature's lost family. Showed it wasn't afraid. And then something inside Michael failed. His heart. Something sudden. Something no doctor could have predicted. The creature tried everything it knew to save him. And when it couldn't, it buried him with respect. Kept his things safe. Wore his jacket for 30 years as penance. Once a year, on July 15th, I hike back to that clearing. Takes me 2 days now. but I always make it. And every year, there are fresh things on Michael's cairn. Berries, stones, flowers. The creature is still there, still watching over him. This past July, I made the hike, brought flowers. When I was leaving, I heard something in the trees, turned around. Saw movement, silver gray disappearing into shadows. I raised my hand and heard a sound back, low, soft. My son died in the forest, and something found him. Something that understood loss, something that tried to save him and couldn't. Something that spent 30 years making sure I knew the truth. That Michael wasn't alone when he died. That something kind was with him. That he was protected, honored, remembered. People can believe it or not. I know the truth. Michael wasn't alone when he died, and neither was I. And after 30 years, that's enough.